Chuck Wooden. I'm also joined by my co-hosts, Monique Melanson-Hunter, and you're watching the Veterans Corner.
Thank you, Chuck. If you haven't seen our show before, it's a show that's dedicated to our veterans, their families, and those in the community that support our veterans.
Thanks, Monique. We have episode number 2. We have Jerry Wright back from the last show. We've actually determined that this is going to be a 3-part series.
Yes.
Because there's so much information that you have on Agent Orange. For those that haven't seen the first segment, certainly encourage you to see that. Very informative. These shows right here, you've been on I'm sitting there trying to figure out 2, 4, it's got to be close to 6 or 7 times you've been on the Veterans Corner. And each time has been so enlightening on the subject.
Well, you're getting better at it as a co-host.
Yeah, as a co-host, yep. I mean, it's...
Thank you, Jerry.
Well, it was the best thing that we did for the show, right?
Yes, it is.
And it's great to have you back.
Thank you.
We left off, actually, I'm going to just give a brief bio for the viewers that didn't see the first show.
Okay.
Jerry's retired First Sergeant from the United States Army. He served with the 19th Combat Engineers from 1969 to 1970 in Vietnam. He is an Agent Orange survivor himself. He was inducted into the Connecticut Veterans Hall of Fame in 2014. Great accomplishment. I always stop at that. I'm going to do it again. Congratulations on that. That's a great honor. He is also a member of the following VSOs, Veteran Service Organizations, the American Legion, VFW, DAV, and he's a life member of all those. He's also a life member of the Vietnam Veterans Association of America. Can you give the viewers just again a little brief overview of your military background?
Sure. I went in on New Year's Eve, December 31st, 1968, at the basic training in January '69. I'd like to talk about that at another segment because I got my Class 1 license in basic training and drove the troops to the field. That's another whole story. I didn't have to ride in a cattle car. I actually got to drive the truck.
Cattle cars, I remember those.
And I got my Class 1 license during basic training. But yeah, and from there right off to Fort Leonard Wood for crane school, and then off to Vietnam on May 26th or 27th, somewhere along there. Spent 13 months the first time because I got caught in Cambodia along with 15 of us, and we couldn't get out. And I was due to come home on May 29th, and June 3rd we were still in Cambodia. And they brought in the first cab and about 200 helicopters, and Puff and Spooky and Cobras, and they lit the place up, and we drove back out, and I went home and came back for the second tour for 6 months. And my unit disbanded, and I had the honor of bringing home the unit colors from the 19th Engineers back to Fort Lewis, Washington, and I was given the original headquarters company banner that I have, and I turned that into Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, Saturday, to put in to show people that this guidon that came back, that served in Vietnam for 6 years, is now back in the hands of the 19th. So.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, we left off, I know in the first show we talked about what Agent Orange is and all that. We won't do that this show. We want to get into a lot of the new stuff that we want to talk about.
Yep.
But once again, we encourage the viewers to look at the first segment and learn more about Agent Orange. Because the vast majority of the public really don't have they don't have knowledge of it.
That's correct, and they can search on YouTube, Chuck, for the Veterans Corner under Nutmeg TV, and they can find any of the past shows that you were on, Jerry. So there's been so much information that you've given us. Every single show has been very very informative.
Now, we had stopped after talking. Actually, there's a few things that we covered just toward the end. One of the things was the trip to Spokane, Washington. You rode your bike out to your trike, your Goldwing. We covered the trip out and back a little bit, but we didn't cover the convention itself. You want to elaborate on that? I mean, how was that experience? Because you had talked to the Vietnam Veterans Association of America at their national convention.
At the national convention. Well, the reason I went out there was because I had the opportunity to write 5 resolutions. And the resolutions are to to eliminate those 3 end dates of the 14 illnesses we have. And I wanted to make sure that the VVA got behind it.
Yep.
So I went out there, and they did, okay? It was kind of neat because I was standing in the parking lot where the bike was, and Channel 4 truck drove by, and I halted him, and I said, I got a story for you. And he, by golly, he came over, set up his camera. As far as I know, I was the only one interviewed at the VVA convention. And we got 23,000 likes in 2 days on that posting. And phone calls and everything after that was great. The trailer I towed behind the trike with the Grim Reaper on, I'm getting signatures. And before I left, Congressman Joe Courtney came to my house and signed and dated that trailer.
Wow.
And along with former Commissioner Linda Swartz, who was also at the convention with us, along with 8 delegates from the state of Connecticut. And we all signed the trailer, along with Commissioner Swartz. So, and I went over to the president of the VVA, his name is John Rowan. I says, since you passed the resolution for the Agent Orange Exposure Fairness Act, would you sign my trailer? And he says, most definitely. So the president of the VVA signed it. And I always make sure they date it. Signature isn't worth anything unless it's dated.
Exactly.
Very true.
And so it was a great convention, with a lot of support. And so on the way back, it was just meet and greet.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
So, Jerry, you mentioned a little bit in the last show about the AgentOrangeStore.com, and they've become one of your sponsors, basically. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yep, they saw some of the patches that I sell. Of course, one of them's right here. And they said, where'd you get that? And I said, well, I found it online. And they said, well, why don't we support what you're doing? The owners of the AgentOrangeStore.com are both Vietnam veterans. And one lives in Florida, one lives in, I believe, South Carolina. Bill's in Florida, Steve's in South Carolina. And they have a world of information on Agent Orange. Hats, pins, flags, anything you want. And you put my name, Jerry with a G, with a W at the end for Jerry Wright, in the comment section, and I get 25% of the proceeds. And that helps fund my trips across the country.
Tremendous.
Yeah, it is awesome. So I want to thank the Agent Orange Store, Bill and Steve. You will be seeing this.
You know, you make so many trips, not only cross country, but just down to DC. You're always in DC. I think you just flew back from DC.
I just flew back from St. Louis, Missouri.
Yeah.
I was out at Fort Leonard Wood speaking to about 80 Vietnam veterans that I served with 50 years ago. And I said to my wife, do I really want to go to this reunion because I'm going to go see a bunch of old guys? I remember when we were 20 and now we're in our 70s. But it was a great thing. And I'm already getting feedback from them that they've already called their congressmen and senators to get behind the Agent Orange Exposure Fairness Act. They're already doing it in Texas, South Carolina, Illinois. And I showed the video that we have from the Community Voice channel in Bolton that put together a professional DVD for me. And you can see that on my Facebook page, Sprayed and Betrayed AO. You can see that DVD. But
your efforts obviously are paying off tremendously. Your passion, your dedication to this.
I'm on a mission, Chuck.
Yeah.
Right.
And I am going to see this through.
Yeah. I know you are.
Yeah.
I have no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
I've known you for a little while now, and just being on the show and talking off camera and phone calls. I have visiting you at home.
Yes, you did.
I have no doubt, and what you're doing is monumental.
Yes.
And that's actually probably an understatement.
You're speaking up for the people that can't maybe speak for themselves, so you're doing good work, Jerry.
Once again, that's AgentOrangeStore.com. Once you get in there, make sure you leave comment section, Jerry W.
Jerry W.
Jerry
with a
W.
G.
And $25 of your order.
25%.
25% rather, I'm sorry.
That's all right, that's why I'm here, Chuck.
Somebody's got to keep me in line. 25% of the order will help Jerry in his travels. So, Jerry, I know support, we've talked about this before, and the support is growing in D.C., right? Somewhat?
Slowly.
Can you give us an update as to where you stand as far as support from the legislators?
We right now have 14 members of the House on board as co-sponsors. We only have 2 on the Senate side. One is from Rhode Island, that's White House, and Kristen Gildebrand from New York is the other one, of course, along with Senator Blumenthal. So with 100 senators in this country, I need at least 60 or better to get this bill through. And with 435 members of the House, I need at least 380 or more to co-sponsor that bill.
Wow.
That bill needs to be brought up to the floor, and then it's going to be voted on. And they come to me and they say, you have to have a score. Did I tell you about the score? What it costs to eliminate those 3 end dates? It's $500 million over 10 years. And I wrote the attorneys back in Washington. I said, I'm just a high school graduate, but the VA says that we're all going to be dead by 2025. There's 850,000 of us left. I am the last third of the Vietnam veterans left. And at 390 days, we're going to be gone in 6 years. How can you say it's 500 million in 10? You better sharpen your pencils. And boy, I got right on them, and I said that you need to reduce that 500 million. And I'm still waiting. It's aggravating, actually.
You know, this show here, we've been doing this. I started it in 2013. Well, I think you jumped in this summer.
Yep.
You know, and we've taped over. We always just throw a number out there. I think we're
347 or something. No,
it's 46.
100.
No, I think we're definitely over 120 now.
Oh.
And you know, this show is actually picked up outside of Connecticut now. I mean, people watch this. So, you know, it's important for those that are out there, not just in Connecticut, but wherever you're viewing this, to call your legislators.
Repeatedly.
Yes.
Not one phone
Yep.
call, repeatedly.
Be very annoying.
Now,
right, Jerry?
now,
Be annoying.
share with the viewers the bill number and all that again.
Yep. The House bill is H.R. 566, and the Senate bill is S332. You can go to congress.gov, put those numbers in, and you'll see that we have 9 on the Democratic side and 5 on the Republican side on the House bill right now.
Yeah.
So we are bipartisan. We just need more co-sponsors.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, it's extremely important for all viewers to contact their senators and congressmen.
Correct.
House Bill 566, Senate 332.
So you wanted to tell us a little about some fellow Vietnam veterans that have been supporting you. Ed Ball and Bob Brill, they're just 2. I'm sure there's many others, but those 2, tell us a little bit about them. What kind of support have they been giving you?
Well, Ed Ball is a retired VSO. He lives in Sydney, Ohio. And anything I need or have questions on, I ask him.
Yeah.
And he guides me in the right direction. Bob Brill, he is a trip, and I'm trying to get him out here to get him on your show. He is a Vietnam veteran.
He's only about an hour, 15 minutes or so away.
He's out in Elmira, New York, because I drove out there and spent time with the Vietnam Veterans of America and the AMVETs. We didn't mention the AMVETs as we're being supportive, but they just passed a resolution, the AMVETs did, in Kentucky about 4 weeks ago, that they support what we're doing as well.
That's great.
So I just had forgot about that. So.
You know, do you think it's possible? I mean, we extended this to a 3rd segment. We're going to do 3 segments on this. Do you think it's possible to get Bob here for the 3rd segment?
When I get back, I'm going to ask him. He's more welcome to stay at my house, and I'll bring him over. And
Actually, I'm friends with both of these gentlemen on Facebook.
yes,
What I'll do is I'll even contact Bob too, and you know, on
Yep.
top of
That'd
what.
be great.
that'd be
reference.
awesome.
Make
You'd
like
really
a panel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that'd be a nice panel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, Congress. I know Congress is back now from the summer break
Today.
And the Senate's been back for a little bit, I think.
Could be.
Yeah, it's. You know, I think they were returning sometime next week, but that they could be back now. Where do you stand right now with getting? Well, actually, this question right here is pretty much redundant. We just kind of went over this. And I just want to know if you have anything else to add. You know, where do we stand now as far as getting these bills through?
Well, if there's, let's say, for example, there's 5 bills that need to go through. The Agent Orange Exposure Fairness Act bill is number 5. It's not number one. Priority right now is to get the budget through Congress, and they need to get that done by, I believe, October 1st. And there are other things that they need to work on. And I was told today that once they get all this done, then there will be a push on other bills that other congressmen and senators have brought up. So I'm not afraid to sit and down and talk to them and say, look, this is number one. And you don't want to be besieged by a bunch of angry veterans that are going to be calling in. This bill needs to be talked about and needs to be brought up.
Yeah.
Right now, you need to contact Senator John Testa from Montana. He is the leading chairman on the Committee of the Veterans Affairs for the Senate. You need to contact Mark Tanko in California. He is the Democratic chairman of the Veterans Committee Affairs for the House. Those are the two powers that we need to get to co-sponsor this bill. They will bring their people in. And those are the ones I call at least once a week.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I know we've got a lot of followers throughout the country for the Veterans Corner on the Facebook page. I'm not sure if any of them are from California or Montana. But once again, House Bill 566 and Senate Bill 332. I know we're repeating that, but it's important that we do that.
Yes.
Call your legislators.
You know what I found out too?
Repeatedly, as Jerry said.
Yep, is I called all 14 of them in a couple weeks ago and thanked them for co-sponsoring the bill. And you couldn't, the guy out in Ohio, the guy in Georgia, the congressman, his office couldn't believe that I would actually call and thank them for doing that. They said, how nice. Well, gee, a thank you goes a long way, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that just shows, the once again, the passion that you have and the magnitude of the subject matter. It's important that they feel that, certainly they made the right decision, but they've got to feel that.
Right. And they can talk about it
Yeah.
to their constituents as well.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more, we're going to kind of deviate a little bit and talk a little bit about issues relating to Agent Orange, but you had mentioned to us about chlorants.
Chloracne?
Chloracne, and it's as a fact that it's a skin rash.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
From what I gather, and I have talked to the office of Dr. Linda Birnbaum, who is an advocate and a supporter of the Vietnam veterans and studies this. And her office is trying to get her set up with me. I'd love to have her come to your show. She is a wealth of knowledge for the last 10, 15 years. Chloracne is like an acne, but you have to be treated for and given a disability within a year of separation from dioxin in order to collect on it. So when I filed in 1981 for skin rash, of course I was denied. When I filed in 1984, I was denied. When I was filed 6 months ago, I was denied. Okay? You ought to see this. It is a nasty rash that appears every 4 years, and they treat me with prednisone to get rid of this rash. It settles into under my arms, my groin, my back, my legs, and it gets red hot that looks like ringworm. I have pictures of it, and I have showed the dermatologist at the VA, and I said, is this Agent Orange related? And she told me, we're not allowed to talk about it. So I went to an outside dermatologist in Connecticut who just happened to be a captain, a female captain. It was in Desert Storm. And she did a complete body exam on me. She's researching all this now, bringing her cohorts in, or counterparts in to talk about it. And this does not leave your body. It never leaves your body. And you never know when it's going to come out. And every veteran that I've talked to, and I can't remember talking to any veteran that did not have a skin rash that appears on their legs that's so hot, it affects not only affects your neuropathy, but it also affects your PTSD because it's a constant reminder.
Yeah.
You can't drill, and you understand, Chuck, as much as anybody, that you can't keep pushing something that's that bad and not think about it or think about it in the PSD. Right now, with the 22 suicides, the highest age-wise for suicide amongst the veterans is 55 to 75.
That's right.
Yep.
That's correct.
And that's the Vietnam vet area, isn't
That's
it?
right.
Yeah, it
It is.
And since you brought that subject up, and that's something we're going to have on the show, hopefully in the fall rotation, is that number isn't even accurate, from what I understand.
It's in the 30s.
It doesn't
Yeah.
include Texas. It doesn't include the National Guard.
National Guard, and most of that are deployed now are from the reserves.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that 22, it sounds like a high number, and it is, but it's nowhere near that.
Right.
It's in the 30s.
I'm very loyal to this country. I'm very patriotic to this country. But they tend to mislead you, whether it be the veteran or the 9/11 people that were down in New York. We are being misled because it comes to money.
That's right.
Yep.
And well, isn't that kind of the cost of doing war? If you have a business and you're running a business, you figure in all your costs. If you don't figure in all your costs, you're going to go bankrupt. But the only way this government will not go bankrupt, and of course you know we are, is that they can just say we're not doing it. Well, I can't, as a business person, say I can't support this. If it's part of my business,
Yeah.
I would go bankrupt and I'd be gone. It's really sad that they can't really take care of the veteran. It really is.
They spend trillions of dollars sending troops over, but they can't spend the amount of money to take care of them when they come back.
come back.
The sacrifice that each one of those men and women make deployed. And it's not only the ones that are deployed. I mean, there's so many support groups, within the military.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not just the ones that are on the front lines.
Right.
They couldn't be there if it wasn't the support areas, behind the front lines.
Well, on the next segment, I'm going to put a little spiff in there that I learned Saturday that the government has what they call people sniffers. And there were platoons in Vietnam that went around sniffing out the enemy. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Yep.
I'm going to research it a little bit more, and your viewers will love to tune in on that because I learned about it, and I called Ed Ball, I called Bob Brill on it today, and they hadn't even heard about it. And it is documented that they have what they call people sniffer platoons.
Wow. We got less than 3 minutes left. Did you want to talk about the really quick, and we'll start the third segment off with this, but just touch on it, the victory that the Blue Water Navy.
It passed the House, it passed the Senate, and it passed through the courts. The courts, out of the 11 judges, said that yes, the VA will pay the sailors, not only boots on the ground, but of course we get paid, would be the sailors. And the Secretary Wilkie, who is the Secretary of the VA, put a stay on all payments until after January 1st, 2020. By that time, there'll be another 70,000 of us dead. So they don't have to pay for that.
So it was a victory, but it wasn't a victory.
It was a victory, but wasn't a victory. And I have a couple friends of mine that are very ill, and they're hanging on because they want to see that it get passed. And I hope they do.
Yes.
This
as well.
So sad.
We'll touch more on
Sad.
that after, on the third segment. Hopefully Bob can be here. You want to tell the viewers again your website, your Facebook page for Sprayed and Betrayed AO?
Well, I'm Jerry Wright, and I live in Andover, Connecticut, and I travel across the country on an orange Honda Goldwing trike with a trailer, Sprayed and Betrayed. You can see my Facebook page, Sprayed and Betrayed AO, and my email is happyhauler@comcast.net. I'd be more than glad to send you any information you'd like on Agent Orange. If I don't have the answer, I know somebody who does, and they will get a hold of you.
Once again, Jared, it was an honor to have you. It really was. It's always great seeing you as a guest here and as a friend. We're looking forward to the next segment. There will be three. I got about 30 seconds left, so we're going to close the show down. you know, a lot of these shows leave us speechless in some of the topic matter. So.
We wish it was a 3-hour show.
Yeah.
'Cause we know you have a lot
That's
to
about all the time we have. Once again, I want to thank you, Jerry, for being here. I want to thank you, the viewers, for joining us. I'm Chuck Wooden.
And I'm Monique Melanson Hunter.
Good night, and we'll see you next time on the Veterans Corner.